It's a show with two retired detectives that were in the thick of New York crime, fast and hectic. They got some stories and some jokes, even an interview with the most popular folks. Off the cuff, off the cuff. One episode just ain't enough. Get a little laughter and an interview too. It's maybe the best thing you can do.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Police Off the Cuff, Real Crime Stories. I'm your host, Bill Cannon. I'm a retired 27-year veteran of the NYPD from Manhattan North Homicide Squad, where I was a sergeant. And with me tonight, and most nights, is my co-host, straight out of Brooklyn, retired detective Phil Grimaldi. How you doing, Phil?
I'm doing pretty good, Billy, and I'm just still floating from last night's show. I mean, that was just a tremendous episode that we did last night. Chazz Palminteri, what a gentleman. God bless him. He's a sweetheart of a guy and a big supporter of law enforcement. So tremendous actor. Hats off to you, pal. That was a great episode.
You know, Phil, I really, really enjoyed that show, and what a great guy. And one of the reasons that we chose him to interview is because it's not very usual for a Hollywood star to be such a big police supporter. And I'm sure he takes maybe some heat from his peers for being such a police supporter. But we really appreciate that, especially in the last year and a half, with all the defund police nonsense and all the anti-police rhetoric. It's so good to have a man of his stature, his talent, and a regular guy, really cool guy. And I really enjoyed the show. I enjoyed interviewing him. And I think he enjoyed hanging out with us for the hour.
Yeah, you know, he really is a regular. He just tells it like it is, you know. He don't hold back, and he gives you his real feelings. You could see he's a warm family man. I happened to meet his daughter yesterday, who was filming that movie in Brooklyn, and his wife, lovely wife. You could see they're just lovely people. They raising two wonderful kids, and just happy to have had the opportunity to have the conversation with him. And everybody knows what a tremendous actor he is, but it's obvious he's a good human being as well.
Absolutely. So great to meet the guy. Anyway, folks, if you're new to this channel, you're new tonight, please go to our YouTube, hit the subscribe button, give us a thumbs up, ring that bell. And also we have a Patreon, and we have a new channel membership where you can join our channel and be a member for extra content. We have 4 levels for $2.99 a month. You're the bucket. $9.99 a month. You can polish my rack. $24.99 a month, you can be dipped in butter, and the premier one for $49.99 a month, you can be in heated dipped in butter, and that's the elite level.
The ultimate.
A lot of stuff going on. You know, we covered the case of Maya Millete, who's been missing since January 7th, and today, 9 months later, they made an arrest on her husband, who was, of course, again the old person of interest thing. I think there was no doubt he was the suspect. I'm going to just play a bit of the press conference, and we're going to take a look at this. It's very, very emotional. Any of you folks that have any kind of a PTSD or can't handle this type of stuff, you're welcome to tune it out for a second. But I'm going to put this up on the screen, and we're going to listen to the press conference, a little bit of the press conference.
At 11:42 a.m., the Chula Vista Police Department SWAT team served an arrest warrant and arrested Larry Millete for the murder of his wife, Millete. Larry was taken into custody at his home and was alone at the time of his arrest. And I know many of you are all very concerned about May's children.
It was a long and emotional press conference. It just wrapped up just seconds ago after Chula Vista police arrested the husband of missing Chula Vista mother, Maya Millete. Again, her body has not been found. Thank you for joining us on this afternoon. I'm Kimberly Hunt. It's been 9 months since Maya Millete's disappearance, and the question still remains, where is her body?
So, Phil, you remember in this case, right? This guy, Larry Millete, was a real slickster. You know, his wife, Maya, she was going for a divorce, and he wasn't going to have that. You know, one of those crazies that if I can't have you, no one's going to have you. And he did all kinds of things to thwart the investigation. The night of January 7th, I believe, 9 shots were heard by not by any human beings reporting it, but by a camera that heard the shots being fired. And that was very incriminating. The next day, he took a long ride, like a 2.5 hour ride with his 4-year-old. And that must
Billy, I
have
think
been
the ride was actually longer than that. If I'm not mistaken, it was like an 8 hour ride. He was missing for about 8 hours or more, maybe even.
right, but it had to be a round trip thing. He was missing for
Yeah.
that long.
Yeah.
And they have never found the body to this day. But there's so many incriminating things and I felt that one of the things I read today was that they had to pull the trigger on the arrest because he was withdrawing large amounts of money out of the bank and they felt he was about to flee. And we know that story again from another case.
Yeah, absolutely, Bill. And this guy, it was obvious. I think I was on Duty Run show about this case, and we profiled it here. And he had a million holes in his story. It was just a matter of time before the walls closed in on him. Apparently, they sped it up a little bit. They saw him withdrawing some money, large amounts of money. So rather than have to chase him around the globe, they snapped him up. And I'm sure that there's a good case against him. And it was just great to hear those cheers from those people. That community has been standing by the Millete case, doing everything they possibly could on the case, from handing out flyers to keeping it in the media. And that's why you heard those cheers. I'm waiting to hear the cheers on the other case that we're going to be talking about tonight, Gabby Petito and Brian Laundrie, when he's brought to justice. But I guess we'll get to that. But going back to what you're saying about how the body's never been found, we're going to discuss some details about cases like that. And it's not impossible. It's been done many times before where a person is presumed dead, no body's recovered. Arrests have been made. Prosecutions have taken place and convictions were attained. So it's not an impossibility. They may have to go through those exact stages with this case, but it's been done before, and I'm sure we can get a successful conclusion on this case as well.
I'm going to just play a little bit more of the after the press conference by the media there.
Hi, Kimberly. Yeah, as you mentioned, really an emotional news conference that lasted about 50 minutes. And we have media here from around the country, but we also have Maya Millete's family. We have law enforcement, local officials, and then just people from the community who have followed this case. Many of the volunteers who searched for her these past 9 months every weekend. And again, you heard the crowd cheering when they announced the arrest of Larry Millete. But the DA said, this is not a win. We have lost a mother of 3. But as you said, they are still looking for the body of Maya Millete. And the DA released a lot of information, a lot of the evidence. And one of the reasons that she did that is she's hoping that somebody in the public will come forward. They believe that Maya was killed on or around January 7th. The last phone call that she made was to a divorce attorney, and they believe that was the reason that Larry essentially snapped. And in one of the text messages that they uncovered as evidence, it was a text message that Larry sent to his boss, and it said, quote, "I think she wants me to snap, and I am shaking inside, ready to snap." They are asking people who might have any information about a black Lexus, if they saw it on or around January 8th. Unfortunately, they really don't have any idea where her body could be, but they're hoping that this will jog the public's memory. If maybe they saw a black Lexus on the side of the road, it's a GS 460 with a license plate Milani. They also say that they are trying to find a .40 caliber handgun. We know that a search warrant was served at the home. They said that a .40 caliber handgun is still missing. The DA also said that This starts us down a path of justice, but this is not a win. We lost a life, and they're simply bringing justice to this family. Again, the investigation was lengthy. It lasted for 9 months.
Well, obviously, the investigation is not over. The hardest part now is going to prosecute Larry Millete and get a conviction. And I think they had a lot of time to cross their T's, dot their I's, and get some really quality evidence. And, we've discussed this on many other cases that circumstantial evidence can be very, very strong evidence. And in this case, there have been cases across the United States. In fact, I remember one in New York City where there was a murder conviction of a doctor. His name was Robert Birnbaum. And I know the DA, his name's Dan Bibb, great guy, great prosecutor, who's now in private practice. But he prosecuted Robert Birnbaum, and they sort of proved, though with circumstantial records, that he had somehow taken his wife's body in like a duffel bag, thrown it in the back trunk of his car, drove to a private airport, I believe it may have been Teterboro, got on his private plane, flew over the Atlantic Ocean, and at some point dumped the body into the Atlantic Ocean, which again was never, ever found. All of this done on circumstantial evidence. He got a conviction. So it is a possibility to get a conviction for murder without the body being recovered.
Yeah, Bill, I'm glad you brought that up. Of course, a couple of things popped into my head as I was listening to that press conference. Now, number one, we didn't have that information about that text message. That was kept close to the vest by the police department that's investigating the Millete case. So again, we talk about the electronics and all the different cases we've profiled. That's something that came about based on subpoenaed records. He's now, right there. Now we have so many things that we can introduce as circumstantial evidence. Now, what that's going to prove motive. He had a motive to kill her. He was talking about snapping. She made the phone call to the divorce attorney. The shots were heard. The disappearance without his cell phone. He allegedly left his cell phone at home, surprisingly. So with all of these different things, if I was a prosecutor, I'd be taking apart these things one by one and presenting them to the jury. And if you get enough pieces of circumstantial evidence to pile up, you can very easily come up with a conviction. Like I said earlier, it's been done before, and hopefully it'll be done in this case as well.
Phil, what was also strange in this case is that they did not remove the children. They had, at some point a few months ago, removed, I think, like 15 firearms from the house. And his lawyer was fighting like, oh, why are you taking his guns from him? Well, don't you think the SWAT team was happy that they knew he didn't have his 15 guns with him when they did the raid today and arrested him? I think they were very confident, although the 40 caliber is missing.
Well, that's something very, very indicative to police work. Now, somebody like him, he's a suspect in a murder case. I'm not going to call him a person of interest because he's a suspect. And one of the things that we would do in the New York City Police Department is we would check with the Firearms Control Board, as well as the New York City Pistol License Division, to see if there are any firearms registered in the home. Like you said, if we have to send a team there, whether it be to interview him or a SWAT team to make an arrest, we want to know what kind of firepower we're up against. So these are things that are routinely done. And lo and behold, when they did that, they executed a warrant to remove the guns. The 40 caliber is missing. So that's probably going to be the murder weapon if she ever is found. The weapon has probably been discarded somewhere. Even if it's found without a body, it may not be such a crucial piece of evidence tying him to the murder. But the fact that it is missing, if it is found, that may lead to other things. So it's not a dead issue, I would say 100%. But without the body being recovered, tying the gun to the actual murder might be a little difficult.
Absolutely. Rita Schaefer, thank you so much for the $4.99 super sticker. Kay Ellis, will he be allowed bail? Lord, I pray not. Kay Ellis, I believe based on the fact that he was just withdrawing large amounts of money out of the bank, which was indicative of him attempting to flee the jurisdiction, I will think it'd be very difficult for him to get bailed. And, look, the purpose of bail these days is it's crazy. In a lot of jurisdictions, it's of course, just to secure your appearance at your next court appearance. However, in a case like this, he's got every reason to flee. So if he did get bail, they may do an ankle monitor. They'll take away his passport, but I seriously doubt that he'll get bail at all.
I mean, listen, a lot of, I'm going to talk about New York again. In a lot of the cases before bail reform, which started about a year ago, any kind of an egregious homicide charge, there was a request for remand right off the bat by the district attorney's office. Now, there is arguments back and forth with defense attorneys, and they can make appeals to the court that their client is not a flight risk, things of that nature, giving up the passport, like you said, Billy, and an ankle monitoring device. There's a lot of different ways that people could be monitored, but I really think in a case like this, I doubt he'll get bail. I don't care how much it was. I think a remand is going to be in order, and he's shown indications that he might be looking to flee already by withdrawing these large amounts of money. There may be other things that we don't know about. There could be travel plans. He could have spoke with someone, maybe text messages, different things like that. So searches on his computer for different areas of the world if he wanted to flee. So all of those things would be taken into consideration at a bail hearing. And I think that, like I said, I can't see this guy getting bail at all. He'll probably be remanded.
No, something. And I'm just baffled that he had the kids for as long as he did. I would have thought that Bureau of Child Welfare would have taken those kids a while ago. Because look, he wasn't even allowing the other side of the family to visit the kids.
Yeah.
I mean, how dysfunctional, how damaging is that? And also, how about the threat of him hurting his own kids?
Yeah, that's quite possible in a case like this. I think that the family court laws are just a little bit maybe too lenient in certain areas, in certain cases. Unless there was a history of some type of abuse or domestic violence in the home prior to this incident, they would have a hard time making an application to remove the children, I guess. I don't know what the laws are in that state, but, you think with what went on, I mean, all the indicators were pointing in the direction of him being responsible for his wife's disappearance, that they may have made a better effort to remove those children. I agree with you, Billy. That was a dangerous situation with those kids. And I believe that the very concerned family members had made applications to take the kids, but was never granted. I think that now they'll probably be in the hands of her family, I would hope. And we'll see where the case goes.
Phil, before we move on to the Gabby Petito case, I just want to say one of the most damaging pieces of evidence is that Maya Millete told her family that if I come up missing, it's Larry. Larry killed me. Before this even happened. So if that's not very powerful evidence, I don't know what is.
I would say that's probably the most powerful statement to come to light in this case. And, we had another case we've profiled. We did many shows on the Summer Wells case. We actually, before the children were moved from that home, we actually called for it. And within a day or two of us saying that we believe the kids are in danger, that they should be removed from the home, sure enough, lo and behold, they were. So I don't know.
You think they were listening to these two New York accents and they took our advice or what?
Well, I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility that a light bulb went off and somebody said, hey, let's listen to these two bananas from New York,
Absolutely. So, the case of Gabby Petito, besides it capturing everyone's heart in this country, being a national case, it's been an international case. In fact, her family was on 60 Minutes in Australia. I'm going to play a little bit of that clip now because it's really so heartbreaking to hear the family and to know that this case has more or less caught the hearts of everyone in the world. And, there's been a lot of criticism because of that, because, of course, there's been other people that have turned up dead, turned up missing, and it doesn't get this kind of coverage. But let's just watch this interview here.
The disappearance and murder of Gabby Petito and the ongoing mystery surrounding the whereabouts of her fiancé, Brian Laundrie, have been making headlines for more than a month. It's a crime that remains just as inconceivable now as when we first heard about it. How could a carefree young couple's adventure travelling across the United States spiral so far out of control? And why wasn't more done to protect Gabby when there were such obvious signs she was in danger? Tonight, her heartbroken parents speak about their love for their precious daughter and their mission to find out what really happened to her.
Nobody expects anything like this to happen, let alone the attention that it's gotten. Very surreal, almost like you're outside looking in. It doesn't even feel like it's you.
In a way, you know, the whole world has come to know your daughter, Gabby. Does that give you some comfort?
Yes. She was beautiful. She was creative, artistic, talented, a genuine person. And we all loved her so much.
It's not easy facing the world when you're inconsolable.
Everybody sees the pictures of her out there as an adult, but when I close my eyes and I think of her, I still remember a little blonde hair, bright blue-eyed little girl with her hair up in, you know, ponytails and always smiling no matter what.
Gabby Petito's family, her dad Joe, mum Nicole and stepfather Jim, want everyone to know how wonderful she was.
What was Gabby like growing up?
A spitfire. She did a lot. She was very busy. She loved her friends. She was a beautiful artist, brilliant artist, just so talented.
She was happy, genuinely happy. She's like, "Yo, come on, let me show you this." She'd want to take you. Let's go. Jump in the car. Let's just go for a ride. We'll check it out. We'll go to the beach. Just listen to the ocean. Look at the waves. Look at the sand. Watch the sunrise. Watch the sunset.
Gabby Petito never goes outside.
By all accounts, 22-year-old Gabby loved Brian Laundrie as much as she loved life. The couple met at high school, but their relationship got serious after they graduated. Last year, Brian asked Gabby to marry him.
It happened pretty quickly. He was very polite and quiet.
Every time he would come over, he was polite. You know, he talked with our other children as well. You know, they got to know him and they liked him. So
Draw them pictures and stuff. He would read books to my little one at night before bed. So he just seemed like a nice guy.
As well as a life together, Gabby and Brian dreamed of adventure. In early July, they quit their jobs, loaded up their little van and hit the road. Their plan was a trip across the United States, sharing their fun with anyone who wanted to follow them on social media.
She always wanted to do this. She planned it out. She knew what she wanted to do, and she knew where she wanted to go. So she had a really good plan.
As parents, did you have any concerns about this trip?
Oh, of course. I worried. I told her to be careful, be safe, make sure to be aware of your surroundings. Don't trust everybody. But I felt safe because she was with Brian, and I felt like she would be okay. I thought he would take care of her.
To begin with, their journey was picture perfect. A beautiful young couple road tripping through America, stopping in some.
Phil, looking at all this stuff, it's so heartbreaking and everything. But the news and reporters, they always say how obvious this was. Why wasn't it obvious then to her parents? If it was so obvious to the news, like right now, it's so obvious, and I don't think it was that obvious because the parents would have noticed something really bad, and they didn't.
I agree with you, Bill. I don't think it was obvious at all. Based on the statements that you just heard there, they're saying that, he would read books to the younger siblings and things like that. So he didn't, he doesn't give an appearance of a person that could be dreadful or mean, from his general appearance. And I don't think that they saw it. I mean, we don't know what goes on behind closed doors, as they say. And he may have had another side to him that maybe only Gabby knew, and she may have not revealed that to many people. So on the surface, the family probably thought he was a good guy. They probably thought he was a reasonable guy that wouldn't do such a horrible thing. That I mean, let's face it, coming back from Utah without their daughter and just carrying on his life, that alone is disgusting, in my opinion. And the part about that the people are kind of getting outraged that there's so much focus on this case. Listen, every victim deserves to have the proper amount of attention through the media. But I think that we had that extra step with this case because of the fact that you saw those live videos of them, going through the countryside, visiting these national parks, having this wonderful journey. It was an adventure. It's something like out of like a storybook, like a fantasy, And then you have the other part of it is the interaction on August the 12th with the Moab police, which was over an hour of interaction captured on body cam. And I think you saw a completely different side of what was going on in their lives at the time. So those two components, based on the fact that the egregiousness of the way that the family and Brian carried on after she was obviously already dead, I think all of those components is what generated such a terrific media attention in this case, internationally as well as within the United States, Bill.
100%. Dr. Stephen Washkill, who was a great friend of the show, I actually asked him to come on tonight. He couldn't make it, but I asked him to describe in psychological terms Brian Laundrie's personality, and he told me that he has antisocial personality disorder. Antisocial personality disorder, sometimes called sociopathy, is a mental disorder in which a person consistently shows no regard for right and wrong and ignores the rights and feelings of others. People with antisocial personality disorder tend to antagonize, manipulate, or treat others harshly or with callous indifference. I think he shows a lot of those traits. They show no guilt or remorse for their behavior. Individuals with antisocial personality disorder often violate the law, becoming criminals. They may lie, behave violently or impulsively, and have problems with drug and alcohol use. Because of these characteristics, people with this disorder typically can't fulfill responsibilities related to family, work, or school. I think, Brian Laundrie, it doesn't seem like he's got a drug problem or an alcohol problem, but he definitely has a problem with taking responsibility, telling the truth, owning up to his behavior, all of which are characteristics of an antisocial personality disorder. Not even to say about how he has just taken off. He's taken off and coming home, driving home with her van and immediately invoking counsel. I just think that all of these things make him, an antisocial personality disorder.
Yeah, 100%, Billy. And when you look up these symptoms, I mean, disregard for right and wrong, persistent lying, deceit to exploit others, being callous, cynical, disrespectful, using charm or wit to manipulate others for personal gain or personal pleasure. You saw his manipulation when he was interacting with the police. There's just so many of them. But one of the ones that really jumps out at me is poor or abusive relationships. He fell into that category, as we know from the information we garnered from Gabby's friends, that he was very possessive of her. He tried to control her by hiding her driver's license when she would want to go out with her friends. And again, you're talking about sociopath. I think it's also very narcissistic. Dr. Phil referred to him as a self-absorbed narcissistic abuser. I think all of these categories, he fits into all of them. The one thing that we don't really know, he doesn't have an extensive criminal record. I mean, it kind of indicates that a person of his age might have been in trouble with the law several times before. Who knows if he bobbed and weaved through some of those things, or he just didn't have that specific symptom that they talk about in this antisocial personality disorder.
Absolutely. Scott Wagner, 2-3 Detective Squad, thank you so much for the $4.99 super chat. You've been a big supporter of the show, and we thank you for that. Disregard for right or wrong, persistent lying or deceit to exploit others, being callous, cynical, and disrespectful of others, But, he didn't show a lot of these traits because we just heard the family talking about what a wonderful guy he was. So how did, when people talk about how obvious his behavior was, it clearly wasn't that obvious that the family didn't recognize it.
Yeah, absolutely, Bill. And the last two of the symptoms that I'm looking at, failure to consider the negative consequences of behavior or learn from them. And then the last one is being consistently irresponsible and repeatedly failing to fulfill work or financial obligations. Those two kind of fall into the fact that, he may have strangled Gabby and then he went and used her credit card. So those two right there are falling right in, jumping out at me from the symptoms that are listed that we talked about on this disorder. But I guess, listen, if you're a narcissist and you're a sociopath, to hide your bad traits isn't really going to be that difficult if you fall into that category, because a narcissist will never take blame. They will always play the victim and show how it's not them. It's not me. It's them. It's the other person. It's never them. They never take responsibility for anything. And, they're not going to broadcast. Maybe in a personal relationship, like with Gabby, he may have, those evil traits might have really came to the surface, but she didn't really tell anybody. But in the general, everyday life, he may not, in front of her parents, he may have acted like a Boy Scout.
Phil, Lorna McKenzie in the chat says his parents enable him too.
Oh, yeah.
I always use that expression, and it's sort of corny, but the apple never falls too far from the tree, and if he's like that, chances are, and not all the time, but you can't always use that analogy. But in this case, I think you can, because I don't like at all the behavior of his parents. And Lorna McKenzie, you hit it right on the head. Yes, his parents are enabling him. They're enabling this behavior. How did they not have very strong feelings for Gabby in the 2 years that she lived in their home? How did they just dismiss that? I have a hard time. Believing that.
Yeah, absolutely, Lorna. I think you brought up a very good point. Bill and I were just discussing that right before we went on the air, how we believe that the parents may also exhibit these narcissistic and antisocial personality disorder behavior symptoms, because again, if he's growing up under those type of traits, it's not that much of a stretch for him to also fall into that, as well as the fact, if you read up on this, it says that there is a component where it's hereditary. So, I mean, listen, never taking blame, maybe when he was a little boy, if he did something wrong, whether it be in school or playing with his friends or whatever the case, and they overcompensated and protected him, that starts the ball rolling with this behavior. And there's probably just a lot of different things that may have happened, that he became more and more of a narcissist and an abuser. And if you look at the behavior of the parents, I mean, it's quite clear that they're indignant about the fact that she's even, reported missing and that people are in front of their house protesting. So, I think that they're just, they're not in touch with what's going on. And I could clearly and easily make the stretch to say that they're narcissistic as well.
Absolutely. Amanda Johnson Williams, thanks for your comment. Yes, sociopaths really lack empathy, particularly in close relationships, no remorse or conscience. Well,
100%.
A guy who can just, and of course, look, I know people in the chat are saying he's innocent to proven guilty. And I am, I'm not just assuming, I believe there's probable cause to arrest him for her murder. And I believe he's guilty of her murder, but of course he's going to get a trial, and he's innocent to proven guilty. But I mean, again, this is not a trial. This is a police perspective on what we see from our experience in law enforcement, and that's my opinion. Fuzzy Doxy, good show as always. Thanks, guys. Thank you for the $9.99 super chat. Very much appreciated. Phil, let's go to a quick commercial.
I want to make a point before you go to the break, though, Bill. You made such a great point. We dealt with almost 50 years between your career and mine. We dealt with presumed innocent until proven guilty through our whole careers. And that's part of the criminal justice system that we're in. And we're both okay with that. Doesn't mean that we don't believe that he's guilty. We put forward an investigation. We put our faith in that investigation when we make an arrest, and then we go forward with the prosecution. Now, the way that the criminal justice system is set up, you're presumed innocent until proven guilty, which that's the way the system is. That's fine. Again, we put enough evidence forward in a case, and we may believe 100% that that person is guilty. They may or may not be found guilty. So the system is the system, and we're okay with that. We play by the rules. And hopefully this case is gonna be solved successfully. Joe Murray, attorney at law. I hope he was listening to my last little jab at the criminal justice system. Have you found yourself in a jam? Are you in need of legal counsel in the New York area? Do you need a victim's advocate? Joe Murray is your man. He's not only an experienced trial attorney, he's also a retired 15-year member of the NYPD. He knows both sides of the fence. His website is jmurray-law.com. That's jmurray-law.com. And his telephone number is 646-838-1702. That's 646-838-1702. Or you could email Joe at joe@jmurray-law.com, joe@jmurray-law.com.
Guys, this is Dee, and Dee owns her own company called Dee's Designs 107. And she makes a lot of, I'm going to show you what she makes. These are Christmas ornaments, personalized Christmas ornaments. And what better time to start ordering them is right in October. What better way to honor our first responders than a personalized Christmas ornament that will act as a reminder of their hard work and dedication? Each ornament is a 3 by 5 inch wide and can be customized with a name, a badge number, a county, etc. There's also room on the back for an engraved personal message to your favorite first responder. Each ornament has a few different variations depending on your likes. Please contact us and let us help you create a very unique gift for you to give to your first responder. Please leave all details in the customization box for name, etc. on the front of the ornament. And if you like an inscription on the back, leave those details in the customization box as well. You'll receive a confirmation before anything is printed. And here's the website, D's-designs-107.myshopify.com. When I say D's, I feel like saying D's, those, and dems. You know, isn't that the way you say, give me some of D's, some of those, and some of dems? But this is D's right here. And D's a great person. She's actually a court stenographer. So she's making the big bucks selling those minutes to the judges, the lawyers, the Joe Murrays of this world. So that's Dee's company. So order your designs right now because will be in time for Christmas.
And we have Tommy Dades to thank for that commercial because he put us in touch with Dee. Thank you, Tommy. Yeah, she looks like a real nice lady, and that's a great Christmas gift. It's got handmade and it's quality material. So there you have it, Dee's.
You know, one of the big things right now, of course, is everyone is wondering where the hell is Brian Laundrie, you know, and if he's in fact still alive, where is he? Where has he fled to? Who's helped him flee? Is he still in the United States? Is he in Mexico? You know, those are questions that none of us can answer, but we do know that we have some great people looking for him. The Fugitive Task Force are the greatest hunters of humans that I know on this planet. And if they're after you, you do not want them after you, trust me, because they're going to find you. And it may take some time, but they're going to catch Brian Laundrie. If Brian Laundrie's still alive, they're going to capture him. Let me just pull up on Ashley Banfield the other day. They had a little thing about the psychology of a fugitive. I'm just going to pull up and play a little bit of that so you can understand what these people are up against. So this was featured on the Ashley Banfield show.
But the real-life pursuit of a fugitive takes a lot more man-hours than the 90 minutes on the silver screen, and emotionally and mentally is draining for the hunter and for the prey. And thankfully, I have both with me tonight. Joining us now is forensic psychologist Dr. Michael Bork. He is the former chief psychologist for the United States Marshals Service. He created the behavior analysis unit for the Marshals. It was his job to help find fugitives like Brian Laundrie and Seth Ferrante. Seth spent 2 years on the run after faking his own death rather than face the consequences of going to prison for 20 years plus and having to rat out his friends for drug dealing. He was on the U.S. Marshals top 15 most wanted list, but today he is the writer-producer of the documentary called White Boy about a drug dealer named Rick Wersch, currently streaming on Netflix. Seth, can you identify with what Brian Laundrie might be dealing with tonight, 1 month into being a fugitive, based on your experience of 2 years?
Yeah, I can definitely identify, with him. I think when I was a fugitive, the first couple months were the hardest, those first couple weeks into 2-3 months. That's when you don't really know, you don't really know what's going on. There's a lot of paranoia. You kind of think the cops are around every corner. You kind of think, the cops know everything, at first. It takes a while to kind of, ease into that lifestyle. So I believe right now he's very paranoid and really looking over his shoulder.
So if that's the case, does that last? Does the paranoia last, or do you eventually get kind of comfy in your new skin? And do you let your guard down?
No, you do let your guard down. It took me about 5 or 6 months, because after 5 or 6 months, if you last that long, you kind of realize, like, maybe law enforcement is not going to find me, if I don't slip up, if I don't, give them a break. Because a lot of the times that's what they're kind of looking for. They're looking for that break. They're looking for that one slip up. And then once they find it, I mean, they're going to pounce on you.
I would think, Michael Bork, that in your business as creating basically the behavioral unit of the U.S. Marshals, that would be really important, wouldn't it? That waiting for that moment, almost letting them hang themselves, waiting for them to get comfy, or waiting for them to miss their old lives. Is that it just sounds normal to me? Does that play right?
Yeah, that's pretty accurate. You should consider joining our unit at some point, because that's exactly what we do. The deputies are out there. They're constantly putting that pressure on those fugitives. So they don't. They're relentless. They don't let up at all. They are 24/7. They're out there looking for these fugitives. So it really is almost an unfair power balance in that they're waiting for the fugitives to slip up, as Seth said, or become a bit complacent, at which time all those pressures come to bear and they make an apprehension.
So, Michael, what do you think the first mistake Brian Laundrie might make, if in fact he's on the run? Listen, there's a couple of variables, right? He could be dead, but he could just be out there. What do you think, based on what little we know of him, what might be one of his first mistakes?
It's it's hard to say. Sometimes when we try to predict behavior like that, we're really off base, because it's the emotional ties that sometimes pull people back into their life and have them make a mistake. It's not so much the that they're need to find a place to get something to eat, or they're stopped by an officer for trespassing or something like that. It's wanting to attend a funeral of a loved one, or attend the graduation of their adult child, or something that sort of tugs at their heartstrings. And I think for Brian, his world right now is in a state of chaos. His support system is gone. He doesn't have the same methods to communicate with people. He doesn't have the same ways to alleviate stress. The ways he used to deal with stress have been taken away. So as the stress increases and his coping, strategies decrease, it'll be interesting to see how that manifests. And I do believe he'll make a mistake in the next few months.
So, Seth, I found it fascinating to learn that your mom would send you brownies to a mailbox, which is just astounding to me, and that you also had a chance to speak with her on the phone about once a month via payphone. I get it from where you were that would be possible, but I can understand how the authorities didn't have eyes on her to see where she was mailing these things, or to see the phone calls that she was receiving. How did that slip by them?
Yeah, they actually, the U.S. Marshals visited my mom once a month, at her home. and they would actually come and knock on the door, and say, hey, do you know where your son is? Has he contacted you? And my mom would tell them straight up. She would say, I don't know where my son is, but if I did know where my son is, I wouldn't tell you. So that was kind of how it went. But yeah, it's like anything, man. Your parents love their kids. Like even Brian Laundrie, his parents love him. So I believe, they're going to help him, and they're going to do whatever they can to help him stay free.
So it sounds like you have some sympathy for them because you've been in that boat. Did you deliberately keep information from your mother so that she wouldn't be complicit or be exposed to harboring?
Oh yeah, like I wouldn't give her my address, where I'm staying, or let her know exactly where I'm staying. Yeah, because I wouldn't want her to have that information, because if she was in a situation, where they were pressing her, I mean, if she doesn't know anything, then she can't help them.
Amazing, right? It's what better person to ask about the psychology of staying on the lam than someone that's done that before, But I tell you, one of the things that we used to do was we'd shake the tree of the family of the suspect, meaning we'd go there, we'd
Pressure.
pressure, make ourselves a nuisance, and then we would dump their phone right after we left.
Right.
And chances are they called the suspect right after we left, like saying, oh my God, the police are hassling us every minute. And that's how you get the phone number, Catman Records. Thank you so much for the $5 super chat. If city was New York City instead of Northport, would you have to search every inch of Central Park? If the parents said that's where Brian went, who decides? The FBI? No, the NYPD would decide in a situation like that. But I don't know if I would believe the parents of the missing that he fled to Central Park. I just don't. I don't think I'd buy that. Just like I don't buy that the father of Brian Laundrie, Chris Laundrie, went into the Carlton Reserve and was helping the FBI. I think that was 100% a smokescreen, and it was just designed to keep him out of trouble once the arrest is made. He could say, oh, look, I helped the FBI. I helped the police. I think that was purely a smokescreen. Your thoughts, Phil?
Oh, yeah, I agree with you 100% on that, Billy. And, if they want to do something that's going to make themselves look good, bring Brian in and say, he called us and he said he wants to turn himself in. And that will play a lot in with them regarding these protests in front of their house and things like that. And, he's not going to walk away from this. I think that's clear. But, I've been watching some news reports and a lot of people are outraged that an arrest warrant hasn't been issued. Now, with the case that they put an arrest warrant for him on the use of the electronic device, the credit card, I think that's enough. People don't realize that the same effort is going into looking for him based on the fact that he's a suspect, not a person of interest in the murder. They could say person of interest all they want. He's a suspect. And now that they have that warrant for that electronic device use, an arrest warrant for homicide, it's not that important to the case, I've been seeing a lot of people, specifically John Walsh was talking about it, and he's outraged and all of that. So I don't think that really is a very important component at this point. Once he's captured, I would venture to say if he's in custody tomorrow, there would be an arrest warrant. They'd indict him very shortly thereafter. So that's that part of it. With regard to the protests that are going on at the Laundrie House, now this is indicative of the fact that they're I guess I want to call it a shield or their barrier that they have between them and the media and these protests is starting to crumble, because over the weekend there were protesters outside the house and they took a sign and it said, "What if it was Cassie?" referring to Brian's sister, their other daughter. And they put the sign on the lawn along with there's about probably a dozen other signs. Well, within I guess a few minutes, the father came out, grabbed the sign, and he threw it into the backyard. So he's starting to feel the pressure. One other thing, I mean, he was mowing the lawn the other day. Just, go get somebody to mow the lawn if you're in this situation. If you're not going to cooperate, you're putting yourself out there doing these ridiculous things. And the reporters walked with him up and down the lawn, throwing questions at him. And all of that's doing, when a reporter says on tape, as you're mowing the lawn, how do you feel the fact that the autopsy has been revealed, and Gabby was strangled to death, and everybody thinks your son did it, and he doesn't have any reaction, or just the fact that she's dead. They threw so many questions at him. If he doesn't respond, it looks bad. So, I'm not trying to give him advice. I think that the point I'm trying to make is that they're starting to feel the pressure of what's going on at their home.
Phil, as much as I don't like the behavior of the Laundrie family, the parents, I still don't think people have the right to protest on their property. I've seen news reporters almost standing at their door. I mean, first of all, once they cross that, your actual property, that's trespass. Joe Murray Joe Murray couldn't help himself. He has to say something. Joe Murray, thanks for the $5 super chat. And he says, the more time that goes by, I fear that Brian may in fact be innocent. And this was just a rush to judgment because of the prior domestic incident. Thank God, Joe, you're not on the show tonight. We'd be getting some hate mail.
Bill, you made a point, and I for a second I thought I was listening to Joe Murray, but it's true. It's really true. People should not protest and violate by trespassing onto their property. I'm okay with that, and I agree with that. I did say that in the beginning. If these people weren't cooperating, that maybe there should be a protest by the house. But that doesn't mean that you have to break the law and trespass or anything like that. Now, with that said, over the weekend, I failed to mention this. The father was seen with a hand truck loading boxes into his truck or his pickup truck, whatever it is. So there might be an indication that they may be looking to hightail it out of that location for a while. Who knows, what's going to be. I don't know. They're probably going to be hard pressed to make an escape. I would say reporters are out there 24 hours a day. Protesters all day long. So if they do try to make an escape in the middle of the night, there's possible ways that they could do it and get to a location that nobody knows. But it's only a matter of time before somebody will recognize them, and then that location will be compromised, and they'll be over there too. So,
or they'll just follow them from the scene.
Yeah, you can have. There's ways. I don't want to give them any ideas, but you could get around it. I'm not going to say any more of that. If it were me, I would get out of there, and with the help of some people.
I think you're right. I think they should get out of there. But when you compare, not that there's any comparing one case to another, but the Maya Millete case and Larry Millete, who was just arrested. Some people are asking in the chat, "Oh, who was arrested?" It's a different case.
Right.
Brian Laundrie was not arrested. Larry Millete was arrested today for the murder of his wife that we all believe happened on January 7th, 2021 in Chula Vista, California, which is very close to San Diego. He was just arrested today based on the fact that the FBI was afraid because they had been tracking his bank account. He was withdrawing large sums of money, and they were afraid he was going to flee the jurisdiction. So they got the arrest warrant. They hit the house, and he's under arrest right now. So that's what that's what that is about. But very different from this case, because in this case, Brian Laundrie was not considered a wanted person. He was considered a person of interest in the very beginning.
Yeah.
And he was allowed to slip away, which I think is still a huge embarrassment to the Florida Police Department covering this jurisdiction.
Northport
I think that
PD, yeah.
Northport PD, I believe it's a big black eye.
Of course.
And I don't think they're proud of that, but it happened, and mistakes are made. And look, the NYPD, the biggest police department in the world, the best, we make mistakes all the time. And sometimes mistakes are made for the wrong reasons, like for not wanting to pay overtime. That's a traditional huge mistake that big bosses make. They don't want to pay the overtime, so they pull people off a very, very important location. And voila, the guy gets away.
Yeah, absolutely. Bill, I just want to make one other point about the Maya Millete case. That was breaking news from earlier today. That's cases that we have profiled previously, and that's why we brought it up in the beginning of the show. It has nothing to do with the Gabby Petito case. However, as Bill stated, the husband was arrested today. He was charged with the murder of his wife, Maya. No body has been recovered, and we'll be talking about that case again, I'm sure, sometime in the future. But back to this case, listen, as time goes on, that guy that they had on who was a fugitive and had escaped for a few years or whatever it was, I think it was 2.5 years that the marshals were looking for him. I don't know that that's going to be the case with this Brian Laundrie. I don't know. You seem to feel that he might be out of the country, Bill. I mean, it's quite possible. My feeling, I don't know, based on the fact that the family went on that trip, they went and bought the camper. Lo and behold, there's a new camper as soon as he comes back for camping for 2 months. That's kind of strange to me. I don't think that, maybe they planned to use the camper as a hideout for him. And then when they realized it was just not going to work out, since they had just purchased a camper, people saw it and stuff like that, they may have come up with another plan to secrete him into the woods, hide food in different locations, maybe even. I just have a feeling that he's somewhere within reach. I don't think he's out of the United States. That's just my own personal opinion.
Susan Albinger, right? The Northport police screwed up. The officer had the nerve to reply to Brian Enton, reporter, "You were here. You didn't see him leave." Really? That's not his job. That's the police's job. I agree with you. You shouldn't be asking a reporter, "Hey, watch the house for us," But look, mistakes are made. And I think that, they made a mistake with that. And they've owned up to it. And Lori Ann Fabian, Joe Murray, Larry Millete killed Gabby. Case closed. No, I don't think so. Lisa Bollier, the neighbors are being paid $3,500 a week each for the media to camp out on their property. I wouldn't doubt that could happen, but I have no evidence that that's happening.
Geez, and I was just about to say, I feel sorry for the neighbors on that block, but maybe not so much anymore if they're getting $3,500.
I would find it hard to believe that any station would pay to
that don't
do
sound
something
right.
that they could get for free. I just want to pull up another short clip here of the family speaking to the media here.
Speak more about this case. Sarah, thank you for joining us. I mean, obviously, this story has gone around the world, and that 60 Minutes Australia has interviewed this family now. Gabby's family saying they believe that Brian is hiding, for sure on the run after the murder of his girlfriend, though he's still only considered a person of interest. His parents have not been charged with any crime. But if it is indeed found to be true that his parents helped him escape, could they be charged with a crime?
Of course.
Adrian, of course. If the parents facilitated his escape, then of course they're accessories after a murder. If they lied to agents, remember that so far the parents have been speaking through their lawyer, which shields them from any culpability. But if they made any material misrepresentation, were willfully untruthful, hid a material fact while a federal investigation is pending, that's what we call a 1001 violation or obstruction of justice as well. But again, I think their culpability is going to turn, Adrian, on what they knew, when they knew it, and what they said or did about it.
Yeah, and that's for sure, because it will be interesting to consider what the courts will find is considered helping him. Right? They'd have to have known that he planned on going and escaping into this reserve or wherever he is going to be eventually found with the intention of evading law enforcement. If they thought, oh, let me pack you a lunch, it might be considered a little bit different. And maybe they will be able to say that they didn't have any criminal culpability here. But Brian, again, Brian is still the sole person of interest in her death. Do you think that, let's just say he's the person who is found guilty. Let's just say that's the issue. What would the charges be now? What would it look like in terms of sentencing for a man who would have killed Gabby in the way that he did?
Right. This is absolutely, Adrian, about proof beyond a reasonable doubt towards a conviction, not just probable cause to arrest him. And as we know, prosecutors can charge a ham sandwich. Here you have a rich bowl of pasta with Brian Laundrie. If he were to be found and charged and, prosecuted, there are 2 homicide charges under federal law that we're talking about here. These are alternative charges of second-degree murder and voluntary manslaughter. First-degree murder is the killing of a human being with malice aforethought. Any other type of killing would be second-degree murder, facing up to life in prison under federal law. Now, voluntary manslaughter, the manslaughter is a killing killing of a human being without malice aforethought, and voluntary being upon a sudden quarrel or in the heat of passion. So domestic violence in Gabby and Brian's relationship is going to cut both ways, Adrian, because the prosecutor is going to say, look, they were always quarreling. There was always violence in this relationship. So this was deliberate. This was willful. This is second-degree murder. And of course, the defense is actually going to use that domestic violence to say, no, this was yet another instance of a quarrel, a heat of passion that led to her killing. And let's not forget, Adrian, that she was found not buried, not hidden. She was at a campsite. So that also shows some level of spontaneity, which goes to that heat of passion killing.
Sarah Azari, thank you.
And I'm sorry, for voluntary manslaughter is 15 years, up to 15 years in prison.
All right.
I'm glad she explained that to us. I mean, she made some good points, though.
She did.
We've been down this road before. We talked about, when the autopsy report came out, the heat of passion thing, which is, most strangulations are done by intimate partners, and at least in domestic violence cases. Someone's asking me, can I elaborate why I think Brian Laundrie is out of the country? Well, I think that he had a lot of time to get away. Alex, I think that his family helped him get out in the first few days. Just realize that Mexico is not far to go from Florida. He could be in Mexico very quickly. And I don't think anyone in Mexico would be interested in returning him back to the United States. There's people pouring through our borders every day. Why would they care that this guy's in Mexico? That's my feelings, because them searching the Carlton Reserve, that trail, I just don't see it. I just think that he had plenty of time to get away, and I think he had a lot of help to get away. It's just a gut feeling that I have, but that's my feelings.
Yeah, I think that's quite possible, Bill, because they did get a head start based on, the fact that there was that trip, and he came home, and he was home on the 1st, and there was no police report or missing persons report done until the 11th. And then even on the 11th, from that point, they weren't cooperating. They did do, when Brian was already in the wind, they did a search of the van and stuff. So, if you look at it, yeah, the possibility is definitely there. He had a good head start. Like you said, Mexico is not far. I don't think anybody's rushing to return him, as you said, if he is down in Mexico. I don't know. Just my feeling was because of this whole camping trip, that's what put me in the camp of thinking that they went into that. I guess it's either the Carlton Reserve or the other one. Have it written down here. One of those locations that they've been searching.
The Appalachian Trail was
the Appalachian Trail, Fort DeSoto Park. Yeah,
right.
I know that they had visited that Fort DeSoto Park. So, and it leads into the Appalachian Trail. So, from the Appalachian Trail, if he's taking that trail, he could be 5 states away by now, maybe even more than that. So, yeah, there's a good possibility of both of those scenarios. So. Yeah, I'm glad you.
Joe Murray is trying to stir the pot again. Here he is. Thank you again, Joe, for the $10 super chat. His comments are: there is no motive, no witnesses, no prior assaults alleged by Brian. Brian's MO of walking away. He even flew home for 7 days, so he cannot be accused of being obsessive and jealous. If it doesn't fit, oh wait, are you going to use that line from the OJ case? If the glove doesn't fit, you must acquit.
we got to get him back on, because
that's a West Coast expression, Joe Murray. But something, Joe, when we talk about and we've enumerated numerous times all the things that are circumstantial evidence. Okay, they had this argument on August 12th, which many people felt an arrest should have been made that day. And after the fact, and after I knew all of the information, and I wasn't there, and I don't know what information they had in real time. But if I would have had all the information, the call about 911 call about him smacking Gabby, the information about her hitting him in the side of the head with her cell phone, he actually had cuts on his face. I think as the patrol supervisor, as a boss responding to the scene, I probably would have arrested both of them. Would that have saved her life? I honestly can't say that it would have, because we believe that the murder occurred on or about the 27th of August. So that was 15 days later. So if they weren't cooled off by that point, an arrest certainly wasn't going to cool their heels. And people will say, well, how about domestic violence follow-up? I mean, they were a traveling couple. They didn't have an address in Wyoming. I don't know if domestic violence social workers were going to go visit them in their van. I don't see that happening. So in a perfect world, yeah, would they have had domestic violence follow-up after both of them were arrested? In a perfect world, yeah, but in a traveling van, not having an address, I don't think that was going to happen.
Yeah, I think that's really a good point, Bill, because we had brought up after we did an episode with Gisela Kirsten from Grizzly Books. She had mentioned about, checking in on them on the next day. Now, like you said, if he checked out at a hotel bright and early and got in the van with her and they left, it would have been difficult to even check in on them. I mean, it was a good suggestion. I think it should be considered in other domestic violence issues going forward. But to answer Joe Murray, what he just said, I'm going to make a one-sentence comment. If all of those things he said were true, why did Brian flee? Why did he flee? He needs to answer for his actions. He should not have fled. If he didn't do it, why did he flee? That's all I'm going to say about that for now.
Lieutenant Peter Pranzo, we're on the same page. He said both collared, yes. And Lieutenant Peter Pranzo, if you guys don't know him yet in the chat, he's a legendary lieutenant from the NYPD, 3-2 precinct, which is in the center of Harlem. He was there for a number of years. Put such a dent in the drug trade that the mafia had a hit out on him. And this is when the Italian mafia ran the drugs in Harlem. And then he became a lieutenant in the legendary NYPD street crime unit, where I actually knew him. I was there for a year, and he had one of the squads. I forget which squad he had. It may have been I'm probably going to pick the wrong one. I think he had the A squad. And I was on the midnights. The street crime midnights were 9:30 at night to 6 in the morning. Wonderful tour for life. Wonderful tour to never ever sleep again. A wonderful tour not to know when to eat. A wonderful tour never to know when you have to get up. So it was crazy. But that's when all the action happened, between 9:30 at night to 6 in the morning. So, but Lieutenant Pete, I'm glad you're on the same page as me. Phil?
He's a good man, Lieutenant Pete. He just did an interview with Gisela Carson that I just referenced on Grizzly Books. I watched it last week. It was a pretty good interview. I think any of you guys subscribers, go over and take a look at it, and you'll see just who he is and what he's about. He's a terrific law enforcement officer.
I just want to say a lot of, TV and a lot of content creators on YouTube are reporting on this case. And I think there's been, from the YouTube content creators, I think there's been really outstanding coverage on this case. There's almost no stone left unturned. Duty Ron has done an amazing job with Barbara Butcher and Ed Wallace, the first grade retired NYPD crime scene detective. I think Duty Ron almost broke the internet with one episode. He had 1.8 million watches on one episode with views with Barbara Butcher and Ed Wallace when they conferred about the autopsy on Gabby Petito. I've never seen anyone get that many views on one episode. That was incredible, and I want to take my hat off to Duty Ron. He also received a little certificate from YouTube for having over 100,000 subscribers. I believe he's up to 114,000 right now, which is a tremendous, tremendous achievement. I hope one day I can be there too. I got to get that. Yeah, congrats, Duty Ron. I got to get that case that just catapults me into the stratosphere. And I hope Phil can help me do that, because they like these Italian guys coming out of Brooklyn, straight out of Brooklyn, He's stirring the sauce all day and then he comes on at night, They like that.
After eating my veal parmesan.
That's right. After eating his veal cutlet parmesan hero, he's here at night. Folks, if you're not subscribed to our YouTube channel, please go over to our YouTube channel, hit the subscribe button, ring that bell, give us a thumbs up. And I see all my channel members in the green font, and I appreciate you guys so much. Factual breakdown. Mamachi, you made a comment. Brian had a terrible temper and choked Gabby out in front of others. Sorry, Joe. That's a criminal in the making. We don't want to get Joe started again, right? Catherine, wow, Pranzo. Shannon, Georgia Peach, Peter Pranzo, Harlem Raiders. I said this too from the beginning. Arrest both. Maybe you could have saved Gabby. It's a possibility. It's we call that the woulda, shoulda, coulda syndrome, but it's all Monday morning quarterbacking. What was the English expression that they said? I love their expression.
Oh yeah, something with the football, no?
Obvious something. They had a great expression for it. And
well,
I love you guys from across the pond, the UK. You guys have your own language too. I mean, you speak English, but you have expressions just like we do that we don't use over here. And so do the Irish. The Irish, when they have their own words for things, and you're just like, whoa. I mean, I always remember listening to Van Morrison's song and the one Wild Night when he says, "As you brush your shoes and stand before the merle." And I was like, what the hell's a merle? It's a mirror, but that was a Gaelic word for mirror, and you use merle. And you comb your hair and grab your coat and lout. A lout is a hat. That's an Irish word for a hat. So, he did that in the original recordings, but then I guess he was like, oh, these people don't understand Irish language. So I'm going to, language from Ireland. So he used the regular English words for it. But I thought it was cool to hear the Breen Braca, Gabby's mother. Thank you for the $5 super chat. Gabby's mother or father may have been called by her daughter if she was in jail. They may have helped Gabby see the danger. Brenny Braca, I something that is something I would never think of. And you're probably right. That is a possibility, But if they would have both been arrested, they would have both got out the next day. They would have just saw a judge. He would have released them. I don't even know if he could issue an order of protection because they were living together. So I don't know what the judge would have done in that situation. But, if they're traveling together in a van, how is he going to issue an order of protection, which is really, that's done in almost every domestic violence incident.
Well, you know what, Bill, real quick, she does make a point that if my daughters were on a road trip and one of their boyfriends, they were involved in it, and even if my daughter was arrested as well as the boyfriend, and I get the details that, he put his hands on my daughter, I'm racing out there and taking her back, and I'll probably have a few words with him as well, but that's another story. So yeah, maybe that could have maybe prevented this whole horrible thing. But, we went through it so many times. There just really wasn't enough information. We don't know what their standards are. Like you said, how do you issue an order of protection on two people when they're living in a van and stuff? So we think that the police did as much as they could possibly do. And I don't think that Gabby's family holds any ill will towards the police in Moab. I doubt very highly they do. They haven't said anything like that if they do. So, but it is what it is,
Absolutely. Holy Cats. You had a great little Holy Cats. Best fun ever listening to an Irishman and a Scottishman arguing football. Yeah, I guess you must hear that. Oh no, Joe Murray's back. Thank you again, Joe, for the $10 super chat. They were at a campsite and separated due to another DV. Brian returned to find her murdered. He couldn't do anything for Gabby, and if he called the police, he would have been jailed with no bail. Well, that's Joe, that's you're creating doubt. We don't know, but there could be forensic evidence that he is in fact the killer, but we don't know about that right now. So again, you're creating doubt, and the doubt you're creating could be a possibility, but it also could be, thwarted by forensic evidence, by physical evidence.
Boy, he's in full defense attorney mode tonight. I'll tell you that. Woo! Joe Murray, if you need a defense attorney, he's hot tonight.
That's right. Joe is, but we love him anyway.
Absolutely.
Tomorrow at 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, Phil and I are going to be on Gisela. That's the hardest name to say. Gisela K's show. at 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I don't know what time that makes it in the Netherlands, but she accommodates us on our schedule.
I think it's
So-
like 11 o'clock at night or 12 o'clock at night, Bill. But
I don't think
11.
I don't think Gisela ever sleeps. So
Yeah.
that's perfect for her. So Phil, we've been live for about almost an hour and 15 minutes. So as I do every time, I'm going to give you the final words.
Final words. I just want to bring up a point. We were talking about the protests going on over at the Laundrie home and feeling bad for the neighbors and stuff like that. All I can say about that is, and I'm not endorsing breaking the law, trespassing, anything like that, but just think about, you feel bad for the neighbors. I do too, but the family of Gabby Petito, just think about how bad they feel. They lost their daughter. So anytime people were bringing up, those poor neighbors, yeah, I get it. I have sympathy for them, but I have just a little bit more sympathy for Gabby Petito's family. Condolences for them, and hopefully they're going to get some justice real soon. That's what I'm hoping for, and that's what I'm praying for.
Absolutely. Sometimes when we cover these cases, I always want to be cognizant of the fact that these are real people that we're talking about. This isn't just some story that we're reporting. These are real people, and we realize that. I mean, Phil and I have both investigated hundreds of homicides, and we know that the human toll this takes, and and of course the family, the most horrendous human toll, but you guys too. You guys follow these cases. Many of you get emotionally involved in these cases, and we try to handle them with the utmost sensitivity that we can as possible. With all of that said, from Police Off the Cuff, Real Crime Stories, I'm Bill Cannon, and on behalf of myself, my co-host, Phil Grimaldi, good night, everyone, and God bless.
Stay safe.
One episode just ain't enough.